We're at Center on Main in Litchfield, Kentucky. It's August the 25th, 2011. I'm interviewing Milburn and Vanmeter. My name is Kenneth Goff. I'm the interviewer, and Elsa Blessed Johnson will be the photographer. Would you state your name for the record?
Milburn, Vanmeter.
And where do you live?
I live at 472 Sulphur Wells Road here in Litchfield, Kentucky.
What's the date of your birth?
May the 8th, 1946.
Are you married?
Yes, sir.
To whom?
She was a Willis, Marilyn Willis Vanmeter.
When were you and she married?
April 11th, 1969.
Do you have children?
We have 2 children.
And what are their names and ages?
Aaron Vanmeter and Angela Vanmeter. Angela is 40 years old and Aaron is 34.
Have you ever been in service of the United States?
Yes, I spent 2 years. I got drafted in 1965 and spent 2 years in the Army and got out in 1967.
All right, do you know the dates?
December the 9th was when I went in 65 and got out December the 8th, 67.
And you were drafted
Yes, sir.
from the draft board here in Litchfield?
Yes.
When you first went in service, where did you go?
Well, we went to Fort Knox at first and we stayed up there until, I think it was about the 20th of December. Then we all got shipped out to Fort Lewis, Washington. That's where we took our basic training and AIT and BUT and all that training.
And how long did the basic training last?
Basic training lasts for 2 months, and of course it was each segment of it, which was basic training and basic unit training. Then you had advanced individual training and advanced unit training. So we all trained together all the way through.
And what was the weather like in Fort Lewis, Washington?
Well, I enjoyed it. It rained quite a bit. I remember one time we got up one morning, one Sunday morning, and we had about a ½ inch of snow on. And this is during the winter. And by 9 o'clock it was gone. And that was the coldest day we had while I was there.
What city is Fort Lewis, Washington near?
Seattle.
Seattle. Is it close to the ocean?
Yes, it is. Pretty close.
How close?
Oh, probably right on it.
Now, can you tell any difference between being a civilian here in Grayson County and the treatment you received when you first went into the Army?
Well, there's a big difference, but as far as my Army career, overall I enjoyed it, and the experiences I had, I wouldn't trade it for nothing. And it changes a person, and you see things a little bit different. And I don't know how the Army is today, but back then I always tell everybody that if it wasn't for war going on, every young man should spend time in the service.
So your experiences in basic training were good then?
Yes, it was good.
Got along all right with your drill sergeants and everybody?
Everybody. I guess I was kind of lucky. Most of us that was in my platoon was from Caneyville to the eastern part of the state, so we was all basically from Kentucky. So.
More or less had the same background.
Same background.
Same culture.
Yes, yes.
Now, what were you trained for in your basic training?
Basic training is just general training, but when we got out of basic training and went to basic unit training, we was put into a recon platoon.
Recon. Okay.
And that was what we trained all the way through
And that was in the Army?
in the Army.
All right. Now, after your training at Fort Lewis, Washington was over, where did you go?
Well, of course, came home on leave, and then we had our orders that we was going over to Vietnam. And, we went over on a ship, and I can't tell you much about that, except I was just sick just about the whole time over, on the way over there.
How long did you stay on the ship?
I think it was 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Now, where did you go in Vietnam?
Well, our first base camp was at, I believe, a place called Knob Bay. And I don't know whether that's the name of the city or just the name of the base camp, but that's where we started out at. And my first experience with that place was it was so hot. It was so hot.
Do you remember the unit you was assigned to there?
Well, we was all with the 4th Infantry Division. We was the 3rd Battalion, 22nd Infantry. And like I said, we all went over together, and we basically stayed there.
Were you still with people from Caneyville in this area?
Well, there's one boy from Caneyville, that a Bratcher boy, that me and him got drafted together. And me and him was on one for this area that was over together.
I see. Now, did you see combat after you got there?
Not at first.
Well, what did you do when you first got there?
Mostly what we done, best I can remember, we stayed in camp trying to get used to the heat at first, and then we started going out on patrols, and a couple of patrols down below Saigon, down there in the Delta, and mostly through the rice paddies, and a lot of times we had to pull security on bridges and maybe small hamlets out in the, close to Saigon, and then we got transferred from there up to Tay Ninh City, which is in the central part of the country, and they call it War Zone C.
War Zone C.
Yeah.
And how long was it from the time you got to Vietnam where you transferred to War Zone C?
It wasn't too long, maybe a couple of months, something like that.
So you just, if I sum it up, you just did preliminary housekeeping matters when you was transferred to War Zone C.
Right.
Now, what happened after you got to War Zone C?
Well, we was mostly attached to a company. If a company went out, of course, Recon Platoon was in headquarters company, and headquarters company usually took care of everything, all the paperwork and the supplies and so on and so forth. And so when we went out, we usually went out with another company, which was A company or B company or C company. And we usually, when they went out, we'd pull guard for the main part of it. If the colonel went out or something like that, we'd pull guard for that. And then we'd go out on ambush patrols and set up ambush patrols at night. And basically that's all we did. And we encountered very little resistance the whole time up to about the middle of March, and that's when things got a little bit rough.
Well, now, tell me about that.
Well, we was, there was a open field out there, and you very seldom ever find any open fields where we was at. And we was gonna go out there and set up a perimeter around the artillery unit that was out there. And we flew in by helicopters. And I remember that we was starting to get on helicopters. And I forgot which company we was attached to. But they said, no, you need to wait because there was some more of that company needs to go out first. Well, we waited and waited, and helicopters never did come back. And come find out that they was, when they landed out there, they had these bombs or mines or whatever it was underneath the ground, and blowed up all the helicopters. And so when we went out there, finally got some more helicopters in, we flew out there, and of course the helicopters wouldn't land. You had to jump off. About the closest to the ground they got was about 12 foot. And but it was a terrible place if I'm not mistaken, about half those guys that was on those helicopters died. And, then, after we got all that cleared up, we got our perimeter set up, and I think sometimes you lose track of time and lose track of days, but I think it was a day or maybe 2 days later that Lieutenant told me, he said, it's your turn to take out, the company says it's your turn to take out a patrol, ambush patrol for that night on the 20th.
That's the 20th of March?
20th of March, 1967. So I said, okay, so I got my men ready, and then he come back, he said, no, I talked to him at the headquarters and said, we're very short-handed, we was short-handed, and we had a certain area we had to pull perimeter on. So there's gonna be another squad from another platoon to go out. Well, the next morning, just at the crack of dawn, we heard all kinds of gunfire, and the squad that went out had got completely wiped out except for one man, and he had pulled his buddy's bodies over him so that he, and played dead. If he hadn't, he wouldn't have been here either. But they come at us like, when they come through the woods and through the field, it's just like a big crowd. It just probably 2,000 to 3,000 of them. They had. I was in a foxhole with a feller. I believe he was from New Jersey. He just joined our unit, and to my right was another foxhole with a PFC Ziegler, and I believe it was another fellow named McDonald. And over to the right was a machine gun bunker with Sergeant Meyer in it, and PFC Thomas Bale and PFC Stormer. And that was our area we had to protect. And it was pretty open where we was at, other than one of those strip of woods. And that's where most of them come through, right in front of that machine gun bunker. And it seemed like the battle went on for, I don't know, but it lasted till, it started about 6 o'clock and lasted till almost noon.
Okay, that's 6 o'clock in the morning?
In the morning.
All right.
And we was running out of ammunition, and I tried to get one of the guy that's in the bunker with me, in the foxhole with me, to go back and get some ammunition. And he didn't want to leave his foxhole. So I made my way back, got some ammunition, and on my way back up, they was already between me and where my men were at. And I remember one lieutenant that was laying there on the ground, and he'd been shot through the shoulder. And I crawled up beside him, and he said, I can't move. I said, well, I'll do my best to get you back. He said, no. He said, you need to get up there where your men is. He said, if you will help me clear this area, he said, then you can go up through there. And my rifle jammed on me, and so he handed me his, and I used it until he got mine unjammed. And then I made my way up through there, and they was all over the place. We had done got cut off from the rest of the company.
Was the lieutenant still with you?
No, he was going to crawl back to the main part back there.
All
He
right.
was going to try to get back. And we had done got cut off from the main company.
Well, did the lieutenant make it, or do you know?
I have no idea.
All right, go
I
ahead.
think he did, because it wasn't a critical wound. It was just like through his shoulder.
Okay, all right.
So anyway, so I made it back up there to him, and I told him, I said,
That's to your men?
yeah. I said, we're cut off from the rest of them. I said, we're going to have to do best we can. And unless y'all want to try to get back. We had, by that time, we done out of the, 2, 4, out of seven guys, we done, 2 had done been killed and 2 wounded. So we did get them back, and then we set up a perimeter back there closer to where the rest of them was. And by that time, they was all over us. They was everywhere. And it seemed like, I don't know, time stands still sometimes, and sometimes it seems like it just goes so fast you can't keep up with it. But I remember one hand grenade that rolled up against my side that was one of those long hand grenades that they had, and I rolled away from it, and it was dud, it didn't go off. And along about, I guess, time-wise, probably about 3 hours into it, that we was about to get wiped out. And there was a track unit, a mechanized track unit that was stationed pretty close to us. They finally made it up there where we was at. And if it hadn't been for them, well, we would have got wiped plumb out. And I think, unless say some died later, you know, I think we lost 30 some, and I think we had 100 and something that were wounded. And
Out of how many people?
I'd say with us and the artillery, I don't know how many was with the artillery, but I'd say it was probably something around 200 of us, maybe 250.
And 30 got killed?
Yeah, yeah.
And how many wounded?
100 and some, so we was
You shot up pretty good.
shot up pretty good. And I think the paper, I've got a copy of the article the paper wrote. I think they said 400 and some North Vietnamese was killed, but after we cleared the area, we buried 700 and some of them. So there was more than 400 killed. And, but I'm not saying they were, but they acted like they were high on some kind of a drug. Because they would get wounded and they'd go back and come back with bandages on it, just like nothing ever happened. And as soon as it wore off, whatever they was on, well, they was getting out of there, they was leaving. But it was a terrible day, and one boy, that Bill, that got killed, everybody in the whole platoon thought the world of him, because he was just a fine young man. And PFC Stormer got shot in the shoulder, and McDonald got shot in the leg, and Harris boy got killed.
Now, you mentioned the Ratcher boy a while ago. Was he still with you?
No, see, he was with the main battalion, so he wasn't in our company at that time. And
Do you know whether or not he made it? Ready? Go ahead.
the Bratcher boy, his name was Jimmy Bratcher, and we got drafted together, and he was number 15 on the list at the draft board, and I was number 16. But he got his draft notice, and I didn't get mine. And so I remember me and him went up there to see where mine was at. And I believe her name was Miss Albie. And she said, if you'll hold on a minute, said, I've got yours in the typewriter now. And said that one person had an accident and couldn't go. But anyway, we came home, and I was his best man, and he was my best man at our weddings. And he come down with cancer, I believe at the age of 40, and I believe he died at 42. And they said it was because of Agent Orange. I don't know. But
Well, I sidetracked you off there.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead and tell us about this battle.
Okay. After it was over with, that morning we buried, I think, something like a little over 700. And we stayed there another day or so, and then well, that first night after that, I had to take out an ambush patrol out. And of course, it was quiet then, there wasn't nothing going on. And but that was the end of it. We stayed there 2 days, and then we moved out, and I think a couple of days later, ended up back at base camp.
And how long did you stay in base camp?
Usually not very long.
Then what did you do after base camp?
Well, we come in, rest, and clean up and everything, then we get ready and head back out again. And We had, we pulled a lot of patrols up in rubber plantations. And beautiful places, and but we never seen much action in there. And I think during that time there wasn't too much action at all over there. It just started, I think, with the Tet Offensive in '68. Is when it started. I think January '68 when it got real bad and kept getting worse and worse and worse. But after that one battle, that big one, well, we just had just little scrimmage here and there, and not much at all.
Until you came home?
Right. And all that time, until that day on March the 21st, all the little scrimmages we had, we never did see none of them. They was always in the jungle, and you couldn't see no piece, you know. That's the first time we ever seen any of them. And so there's a lot of snipers. But as far as the place, the people, oh, I don't know. It's hard to say. You take it in a country that's been fighting that long. The people kind of get immune to it. They kind of just take it as part of their life. But like I said, I wouldn't take nothing from experience.
Did you mix much with the Vietnamese people?
Quite a bit. When we, especially when we was had to pull a guard around a hamlet or something like that. Now the little kids is something that would break your heart. And
well, now let me ask you. You're in our service, and you're out on these patrols. You come in. Do they give you any 2 or 3 days leave?
Well, no, not really. Just come back to basic camp. We did get some R&R off and on, and usually supposed to get 1 a year. I ended up getting 2. I went to my first R&R. I went to Hawaii.
Where in Hawaii?
I couldn't tell you what the name of the place was.
Did you like the place?
I'm just glad to get out of there. Well, it was better where I was at, but I just don't have no desire to go back there.
All right. What about your second R&R?
I went to Bangkok, Thailand.
Right. What did you think about it?
Well, where we was at, it was nice, but if you get on the outskirts a little bit, it wasn't no different where we come from, you know.
You're right on the inside of the city, Bangkok.
Yeah.
Was it a pretty thriving city?
It's pretty much. They just drove on the wrong side of the road. And when you're used to driving on the other side, it's scary.
So you rented a car, or you had?
No, we always got a cab.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, did you win any awards or anything?
Well, I got 2 Bronze Stars. One of them, I don't know who turned it in, but I think I know who it was, and I got a Bronze Star with a V device for the March 21st.
That was in this big battle.
Yeah, and I think it was Sergeant Myers that turned it in. I'm not sure, but
You had a citation for that.
yeah.
And then we'll include that with your permission in the record here.
Okay.
All right, tell me about the other Bronze Star.
The other one was given by the United States Army for my overall service.
All right.
And
You have a citation for it too.
yeah, sure
We'll
do.
include that.
Yeah.
Now, I see you have some records here.
Yeah.
It's all right to
Yeah.
photograph those
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
The Bronze Stars
Yeah.
are in those.
Yeah.
In the
I've got a lot of articles out of papers and this and that, and I remember I captured the first VC that we captured.
You captured the first
First
VC?
one, you know. And,
Well, tell me about that.
well, we was, like I said, we out done a lot of patrols, and we'd go and check these little hamlets or huts and talk to people as we went. We went to this one, and wasn't nobody there or nothing, and so we went on, and I just kind of glanced back, and I seen a fella going in the back of it. So I passed word up to the sergeant. I said, me and PFC Bale, that's one I was telling you about a while ago. I said, we're gonna go back and check it out. So we went back, and he was in there, and through an interpreter, after we got him back to the base camp, we found out he was one of the Viet Cong, one of the VCs. So we captured the first one. And, but other than that, that's basically about all we done.
Okay, let me ask you another question or two. What was your highest rank?
E6.
E6.
Staff sergeant.
Okay. And as an E6, how many men did you have under your?
Well, when before we went over, I got promoted to an E5, and you had a squad when you was E5, and usually it depends. Sometimes it'd be 6 or 7 men, sometimes it'd be 10 or 12, you know, and in May, I believe it was, is when I got promoted to an E6, but most of the time you had about, I'd say average 9 or 10 men to a squad.
9 or 10 men.
Yeah.
You was in intelligence and reconnaissance.
Recon.
Recon.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when did you come out of service?
December the 8th, 67.
After you came out, what did you do after you came out?
Well, I didn't do much except hung around the mom and dad's and you know, I don't know whether young people today it's got plans for when they get through a certain phase of life, but all of us back then had the desire to find us a good job, get married, raise a family, and do what we're supposed to do. And my first job after that was Morris Willis at Fort Garage. He come to see me. He wanted me to work up there at Fort Garage. So I worked there 4 years, and during that time I met my wife Merlin, and we got married. Then I worked for Southern States for, I think it's almost 10 years, and I went business on my own.
And what was the name of your business?
Consumer Tire and Auto Service.
And and where was it located?
It's located, well, just right across the street here on South Main. And,
You built that business yourself?
Yeah.
The building and everything?
Yeah.
All right. How long did you stay in that business?
15 years.
All right.
People of Grayson County has been good to me. And,
After that, what did you do?
well, after that, I kind of took it easy for 2 or 3 years. And James Blanton from PVA office, he come to me and he said, I need some help up there. I said, would you want to come and work for me? I said, well, James, I said, I don't know. I said, I'll have to think about it. And so, I guess about a month later, I was sitting there at the house with my wife, and I said, I'm gonna call James and see what he's got on his mind. About that time, he pulled up my drive, and I told him, I said, if you'll give me a couple more weeks, I'll go to work for you. And that's where I've been at, and then I decided to run for the office up there, and that brings you up to today.
When did you start working for James?
It was in 2002.
All right, and you sold your business out about 3 years before?
Yeah.
All right. And then in 2010, you ran for office
Right.
and was elected?
Yeah.
All right. Of course you had GI Bill, did you ever think about using it?
Well, see, that's one of the mistakes I made. I should have went to college after I got back, but I went to a few schools, just a few months school, what the benefits for the military people, I advise everybody to use every one of them that they can.
Yeah.
Because you can look back and you say, if I had this to go with, I'd do this, or I'd do that. And, you don't know what would happen if you done that. So when I look back, I said I wouldn't change nothing in my life. I'd just go right on through just like I did before, And like I said, people of Grayson County have been good to me. There's a lot of people of course they've done passed away, but I won't forget like Morris Willis, Bill Vincent had the Vincent store for men up here, and Herschel Thompson had the insurance agency, and Paul Miller and all them, and I just won't forget them,
Is there anything else you need to tell us?
No, it's just, like I said, the people of Grayson County have been good to me, and I've devoted my whole life to the people here, and I appreciate what you're doing, Judge Goff.